that's what I'm talking about.
I'm not.
I
I'm
just
not trade
debunked
picking.
your
I'm not
stupid
trade picking. I'm
argument.
gonna speak
I
when you
just
finish.
I
When you
just
let
debunked your
me. No,
stupid
no, no,
argument.
no, no. You didn't debunk
Yes, the
anything. I'm
context
gonna
kills
let
your
you
stupid
finish.
argument.
When you finish talking, do not
Yeah.
mute. Don't
And
mute
I'm
me.
gonna
Don't cut
make
me
what
off.
I
Don't do
said good
nothing.
too, and let that brother get the flow. And after he's done, because me and you've been talking a while, then you can do whatever you want to do. All right? Let that brother speak, and then whatever is after that is clever with me. Okay, come on. Where is he?
Yeah, shalom. I
F.o.g.
heard y'all going into Leviticus 21, and I wanted to get the full understanding of what you were saying about that. You started at, let me see. If you remember where Isaiah, you could pick up there where you was talking about who can't marry a widow.
That was Deuteronomy. The brother
Leviticus
actually.
21.
Well, yeah, Leviticus. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
it was like
hmm
13 that you was at.
Yeah. Now that was the context. Now that was. Now this. I won't say this because somebody dropped this in the back chat. One of the sisters, I think. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but now Amalek is a different case. But what I just read here was about, and I'm gonna back up a little bit.
I don't know if y'all talking about Amalek. You was talking
That's
about who can't
Leviticus.
marry a
No, I
widow.
wasn't talking. No, this wasn't about Amalek because Amalek is the case of Amalek was just completely different. God tells them to go kill everything, but Saul he keeps. I don't know why he does this. And I don't know why Israel did what they did when it came down to that, but that was a different case. You can take a woman that's a widow from a strange nation and marry her. I'm not a widow. I'm a virgin, but not the widows. Well, I was real specific. I just didn't cover that. You can take a woman that had not known a man and bewail her and paw her nails and shave her head, things like that, and marry her. You see what I'm saying? But not the widows. You couldn't do that.
Mm.
They're widows. It's already been married, and God wanted Israel to, for them to breed amongst themselves,
Can
build their nation up, keep their bloodline pure for a while.
can you show that, brother, in the text if you can? Because I pretty much heard you say it, and I was trying to see where you read it because I came in right on the tail end, and I was like, man, I must have missed that precept. And that would be a
Yeah.
nice precept to have in my arsenal if you could.
Brother want to get back in.
Yeah, I'm still here. My
Deuteronomy
bad.
21. Deuteronomy 21 is where you want to go for this. At verse 12 is the key. That's the key point. So you want to highlight that. I'll back up to verse 10. And then actually DNA brought this up. But anyway, for the sake of time, verse 10, Deuteronomy 21, verse 10. When you go forth to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God has delivered them into your hands, you have taken them captive. You have made slaves out of them. And you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and have desire unto her, that you would have her to wife. You shall bring her home to your house, and you shall shave her head and pare her nails, whether she wants it or not. And you shall put the raiment of her captivity off, and shall remain in your house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. And after that, you shall go in unto her to be her husband. She shall be your wife.
Hmm.
Furthermore, it goes on to say even further, and it shall be, if you don't find no delight in her, then you shall let her go. You let her go where she want to go. Let her do what she want to do. But you shall not sell her at all for money, and you shall not make merchandise of her, because you did humble her. You took her virginity. Funny thing, in the very 20th chapter, the same thing that we read and covered earlier already, at the 10th verse, when you come nigh to a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. It shall be, if it make thee answer peace and open unto you, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto you.
Wait, you say go to what verse? My bad.
Verse 10.
Oh, so you just
Read.
going back to 10?
I'm just going back to 10 at verse chapter 20, the previous chapter. These are
10.
sister chapters that go together.
Okay, so
Deuteronomy 20 is
Deuteronomy
sister
20.
to Deuteronomy. hmm And
Okay,
you can start at verse 10. I'm at verse 11.
got you.
And when he says, make tributaries to the Hebrew word is mas, M-A-S, mas. You can make laborers out of them. You make them slaves. You make them your servants. Those are the waiters and the waitresses. Those are the field hands. That's the guy that's cutting the grass and trimming the hedges and feeding the cows and building your fences and building your houses. And
Hmm.
that's kind of like the day's labor market, so to speak.
Right, 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 right.
And it shall be if they make no peace with you at verse 12, but war against you. No, we ain't gonna be your servants. Then you shall besiege it. Meaning you're gonna gather your armies together and fight against it. And when the Lord thy God has delivered them into your hands, you shall smite every male with the edge of the sword, but don't kill the women, don't kill the kids and the cattle and all that's in the city. You can take that for a spoil and you eat that what I gave you. It's still servants. But out of all of those males, some of them had wives. The widows, you don't marry them. Now, if you see virgins amongst them and you want to marry one, you can. But God allowed them to divorce them women and to send them on their way.
But where
But
do
who
it
they gonna pay
say?
dowry to?
Where do it say specifically that you can't marry them unless
Mhm.
they's a virgin? That's the part I want to see. Because I see where it says, but the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that's in the city, even all that spoil thereof. So I see that, but I don't see the part where you reading that says that, unless
That's
they a
Leviticus
virgin.
21
Okay, Leviticus 21. Let's go there. So I
at
can
verse 14.
verse 14. Okay, let's get it. I have it actually. You want me
Yeah,
to just read it? I
yeah. You
got
go ahead
that
and
one.
read it.
So it says, a
Mhm.
widow or a divorced woman or a profane or an harlot, these shall he not take, but he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. Wow. So is this talking about, you said this is talking about Israel?
Israel was not supposed to marry some widow. The males were not supposed. It actually was supposed to take the virgin daughters of Israel.
Hmm.
Okay, now a woman that was playing the harlot, they don't marry no harlot. No, or no widow.
Right. But I'm
That
saying,
was
I'm
against
asking
their
you
law. That would have been
specifically, brother,
against this law.
real quick, brother. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to slow you down because it seemed like you know what you're talking about, and I'm kind of just trailing behind.
No,
So you saying that this particular law in Leviticus 21 is talking about Israelites. It's saying to Israel.
that's right.
It's not talking about a very particular sect of Israel.
No, Israel had a law standing for the males. And that would be in another book. I can go to it just to clear something up for you if you
What?
like. I can go to
Don't
that.
go to another book because real quick, I just want to focus on this one. So
Yep.
for this to be talking to all Israel is confusing to me if I look at Leviticus 21 and just start at the beginning of the chapter where it says, Yahweh spake unto Moses, speak unto the priests. And
hmm
I know we're supposed to be a nation of kings and priests, but it gets very specific and says the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, there shall none be defiled for the dead among his people, but for his kin that is near unto him, that is for his mother and for his father and for his son and for his daughter and for his brother and for his sister, a virgin that is nigh unto him, which hath had no husband. For her may he be defiled, because obviously she wouldn't have a husband that could take care of that, right? But as we continue, it says, but he shall not defile himself, being a chief man among his people, to purvey himself. They shall not make baldness upon their head, neither shall they shave off the corner of their beard, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. They shall be holy unto their God, and not profane the name of their God. For the offering of Yahweh made by fire, and the bread of their God, they do offer, therefore they shall be holy. They shall not take a wife that is a whore or profane, neither shall they take a woman that is put away from her husband, for he is holy. So I'm wondering if there's a text that will give me these same commandments that is actually addressed to Israel, and not just the sons of Aaron of the Aaronitic priesthood.
Well, that's in the 21st chapter.
Okay, because we in Leviticus
That's what I was
21.
telling you. Right. Well, that's in the 21st chapter.
Yeah, I'm
Those are
reading.
sister chapters,
Yeah, I'm
right?
reading Leviticus 21 now. So what's the
When
other
when he's
chapter?
talking to the priest within the Torah, he specifically says priest.
Yeah, it says, and the Lord
Otherwise,
said unto Moses, speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron. So I just read from 1 all the way down to number 7, what we was talking about. So I'm saying, where's the chapter and verse where he's speaking to Israel?
right, that's in the 21st chapter.
Okay, so can we read that part, brother?
I already read it.
Okay, because I'm reading Leviticus
It's the first
21
thing
and
I read.
7 now.
Not Leviticus, Deuteronomy 21.
Deuteronomy 21. So Deuteronomy 21 is talking to Israel, and that's talking about how you can't marry anybody unless they're a virgin,
This
as
is
far as
talking to
Israel.
all of Israel at this point.
Right. So it seems to
Unless it
me like the two
unless it's
texts.
otherwise stated, I'll just tell you to help you out. Unless it is otherwise stated that the when Moses speaks to the people in general, it is talking to corporate Israel.
I would agree.
Unless it is stated otherwise, then it is pretty safe to you can assume, but it is always better to read the 20 verses up, 20 rule. That's the best thing, safest way to do. But I'm just telling you from my experience.
Right,
It
right, right.
is normally safe to assume he's talking to the corporate body unless he's specifically saying, say this to this king, or say this to so and so, or say this to this prophet, or unless it is otherwise stated or posted
Right.
or addressed or referred to. It's pretty safe to assume he's speaking to corporate Israel.
I would
But that
agree with you.
changes over time. That definitely changes when the kingdom splits into two. Then you have to keep up with the history, keep up with the narrative. You got to be sharp with it. But back here in the Torah, he's either talking to Levites or he's talking to all of Israel at once.
Right,
One
right.
or to Aaron, like that. So
So
or
I
to Pharaoh,
real quick,
Mhm.
brother,
Go ahead.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying again, and just bear with me. What I'm saying is when we read Leviticus, Leviticus is talking specifically to the priests, which we agree. And that's where it says they can't deal with nobody who's not a virgin. Right. That's where it says it. But when we look at Deuteronomy 20 or Deuteronomy 21, it doesn't reflect that sentiment. It just says take of the women. And it says, in particularly dealing with the text where it says, she shall par her nails and bewail her mother and her father and put off the garment of her captivity and all that. Like, it doesn't say that she has to be a virgin. So what I'm saying is, how can we then mesh these three texts together and say they talking about the same thing? Because even you agree with the standard that when it says that it's addressing Aaron or the priesthood, that it's talking about the priest, but when it's in general, it's talking about the Israelites. Like, there's no instruction for Israel at large to adhere to the customs of Aaron and the priests that reside within that house. If you could demonstrate otherwise, I would be a peaceful hearer, but I really would like that demonstrated.
Well, that's kind of what DNA and I was talking about when it came down to the slavery. We just stumbled across this just happenstance.
Yeah. So we would have to agree that that's talking about Aaron and it's not talking about Israel then, right?
No, it's talking about all of Israel.
Okay, so how
What
can
you
we
read was about Levites defiling themselves.
right.
See, that's it. That's because they had an office to hold. You see what I'm saying? So they had to marry virgins. Definitely couldn't marry no widows or harlots.
Mhm.
That kept them sanctified. But it wasn't just for, and I'll show you that because here, let me go to something here.
Wait,
Um,
before you go to a different text, I'm listening to you. I just wanted to hear your reason as to why we were kind of adding that into the text. It's like if we didn't read it there, then we shouldn't be saying it says it. So that's why I was saying, can you demonstrate it in another text? Well, it sounded like you was just explaining something, so I want to hear that before you go somewhere else. So I'm not confused because again, I
well,
did just come in on the tail end of a discussion.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, Israel had law. Well, the Levites had laws, and all of Israel had laws. But in this genre of the law, Israel had, when you talk about just the commoners of Israel, not the Levites, just the commoners,
Hmm.
the law for them was if a man found the woman and he went into her and she wasn't a virgin, you know what would happen?
What?
They'd bring him out to the elders. Then the father and the mother of that woman would bring the tokens of her virginity.
Hmm.
Okay, and that man would get beat, he would get immersed, and he couldn't put. He had to marry the woman.
Hmm.
Same situation though. Man, he gets this woman, he goes into her, and he says, "Sir, your daughter wasn't a virgin,
Hmm.
and the tokens of her virginity be not found." They would stone that woman to death. That was a capital offense in Israel.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So we can immediately conclude the following: that if it was possible to divorce a woman by death, by means of death, because she wasn't a virgin, and that was a standing law in all of Israel, most likely they wouldn't have been marrying no widows.
So you
Most
saying
likely
that
they wouldn't be marrying no harlot either, you know.
real quick? You saying the custom of the proof of her virginity is
Mhm.
due to the fact that we only dealt with marrying virgins?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the law, the standing law
Hmm.
was if a man went to a woman and she wasn't a virgin to marry her, there was a capital offense for that. That meant she was. What you do is you look up playing the harlot in father's house.
Hmm.
I won't go to it now, but if a woman was found out she was playing the harlot in her father's house while she was betrothed to the man, she'd die for that.
Yeah, but
All the man had to do
do
was
you know
just get
why
up
that
and
is
say
though?
she played the whore.
Like,
Mhm.
because when you betroth to a man, that's pretty much considered a marriage until that marriage is otherwise broken off. It's not been consummated, so it's not been officiated, right? So you can't have a betrothal. That's why it says if a man lie with a woman who is not betrothed or married. So that's a part of the law. You can't be betrothed to two men. You can't be betrothed to one man and marry another. You aware of that? So when it says that the garment that is laid there to prove that she's a virgin, that's specifically due to the fact that the marriage was set up based on the pretense that she is a virgin and that the father is due a dowry because that's you're not supposed to deal falsely with your neighbor. Outside of those parameters, say a woman meets a man, neither one like he's been married before, she's been married before, but neither one of them's married in the present time. There's no law that say they can't come together in union. For example, what about Boaz and his ex-wife? I mean the woman
Well,
that she
the
was
law
with,
don't
Ruth.
apply in that case. That in that case, the law does not apply. What they say in that story was the man had died.
Hmm. And so
She
she was
couldn't
a
go out
widow.
there and marry some stranger. In that case, yeah, she was.
Okay, so what's the difference? Because she's of another nation, she's a widow, and she was married to an Israelite. So I need these two things to correlate in order
She was
for
actually part of the family. She was supposed to be redeemed. She was one of the sisters.
what she was a
You know,
she
she
was
was
a
a
sister of
Moabite.
the Israelite.
Yeah, you've got to go. What you have to do with that situation is you have to carefully examine that. I know people. There's a lot of arguments circling around this case with Ruth, where Ruth was actually kinfolks
That's
at
interesting.
the point. And so there's the whole thing with the shoe. The man who plucks off the shoe. They had all kind of ritual, covenant arrangements, and contracts they had to do, and she had to be redeemed. But the next of kin that was in line, not Boaz, he couldn't do it. So he plucked off his shoe, and Boaz was able to marry her. But whether she was a virgin or not, I actually never looked into that. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I don't know. But her husband definitely was killed or murdered or died, however the case was.
So she couldn't have been a
And so that
virgin if she had a husband.
she well, I don't know.
I
I could
mean,
assume it.
you do know,
We can
brother,
assume it.
because
We can assume it.
it says
No,
if a
that
man
ain't
lies with
no,
a virgin, surely she shall be
mm,
endowed to be thy wife. And then when it
no.
says that,
That ain't
and
necessarily the case.
it also
That's
says
not
that the
necessarily the case
woman,
amongst Israel, brother.
it
That's
also
not
said,
necessarily the case.
hold on, brother, because
That's
I'm
not
I'm hearing you
necessarily
as
the
well.
case.
Well,
We have women who
you
never
can't
lay with their husband
you
in the
can't say
Bible.
something's not the case if you don't hear the case that I'm laying, can you? Like
Yes, we
you
have cases where women didn't sleep with their husbands for years after they were married,
you subscribe
which
to
goes
the
back
80
to the
books, brother?
original point. No, I don't subscribe to 80. I only subscribe to 66. And
Okay, well that's
within the
fair.
66, it tells you that it ain't necessarily that a woman has sex with a man. See, you what you need to do is go into customs of marriage. What a man would do, I'm gonna give you the short version to the point that you stated earlier.
Well, I can tell you the
Before
customs
you
of
continue
marriage
in your argument,
that
before you continue further in your argument, let me explain something to you because I heard you say this.
all right,
What a
what you got?
man would do is he would see the woman he wants, and and they would be promised to wed. He'd go off a year later, and he'd come back and call his bride out in the middle of the night. Then, as we seen with Jacob and Leah, they met up at night after the year of being promised to be married. In Jacob's case, it was 7 years for Rachel, but after 7 years, who goes to him at night is Leah. Can't see, he don't know, and he's in there waiting for his bride. You see what I'm saying? That was the ritual custom amongst Israelites
Mm-hmm.
long before what we're reading here.
Mm-hmm.
And that ritual continued on into what we're reading now. So hence, if a man find a damsel, not to, the woman, not to be a virgin, the night he penetrates her, she ain't a virgin, he can divorce her, but her divorce will be ending in death.
Wait. Say that again, brother.
You missed it. In
Yeah.
other words, after that year, after being promised to be married,
Mm-hmm.
not intercourse, just you know, a promise to be married. It was that's what you call kind of like a betrothal, engaged to be married. Now the Bible don't use engaged. We that's our term, but that's the closest thing I can find to it. Promise to be married. He
Mm-hmm.
go off for a year, then he call his bride out in the middle of the night, and the parents would bewail her, but he'd carry her off and away in the night, and that'd be his wife. He'd consummate the marriage. But not all situations are that way. They're not always okay. Hook up to get have sex and boom, we're married. That's not every case in the Bible. We seen that with Elizabeth. 7 years away from her, from the time she got married, she didn't lay with her husband sexually like that for 7 years. So not all situations are done exactly the same way, but the prescription of the law was first the custom, then the intimacy, like we seen with Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. He had to wait a while.
I
Okay, that was
mean,
the custom.
but that was at the demand of the father. The betrothal always is an agreement that's predetermined, and it's not necessarily according to the same standards. So, in that same manner, we could deal with Isaac and Rebekah. She was betrothed, but she was betrothed in a manner where there wasn't necessarily a dowry paid that was demanded. There was gifts given. She went off with Abraham's servant, and then she met Isaac, and they had sex in Isaac's mother's tent, and she became his wife. But you said something about people could get married and not
Mhm.
have sex, and then they can still be married. I just want to look at Exodus 21. If he take him another
Yeah.
wife, her food and her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. And if he do none of these three unto her, then she shall go out free without money. Now, furthermore, this is going to tie into two subjects. The sex has to happen in order for them to be married. When it says that duty of marriage, that's talking about the Hebrew word onah, which means the cohabitation and the sexual intercourse, the conjugal rights, so to speak. But this is also elaborating on the type of marriage where somebody would take someone who is fit to be a servant bought from among the heathen. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't say she needs to be a virgin. It says that she could be bought and betrothed to a son as a wife. But the little pinpoint that I'm going to right now is that The man is to let the woman go if he's not having sex with her. Just in this particular instance, but if you said look at the ancient custom, so you're talking about what's called a wedding chamber where there's a bed, and that's the same situation that we dealt with, which is why we had the proof of virginity. The white sheet wasn't going on a pile of dirty clothes; it was going on the bed that's in the wedding chamber. And I was asking you earlier what books you dealt with because there's a historical narrative in the book of Tobit that will further expound on how a man and a woman would go to do what you said, consummate. The consummation is contingent upon sex, that sexual penetration, which is why when a man lays with a woman, the dowry is due. You know what I'm saying? Because the dowry is for a
Yeah.
virgin, but he has to now take the woman off and not put her away because he has become her husband, brother. I just wanted to tie that together, but again, we could kind of go back and forth on these details, but I just want you to show me the text where it says that Israel can't be with anybody unless they a virgin and they can't be with no widows. Because the scriptures
Well,
say you
what
shall
we
be as a husband unto the widow, don't it?
no, like I said before, widows stayed widows, but it's not like
But
this.
except for Ruth,
I'm
right?
not gonna say, I'm not gonna say there was no exceptions. I'm not gonna say that because there were exceptions.
So that would be
But
called respect to
usually
persons,
those
right?
except no, it wouldn't be called that. That would be called an exception.
An exception is a respect to persons.
No, respect the person's person upon limtes. The word means to look at a person's outer appearance, look at their face and say you handsome, and look at that one and say you ugly as hell. The one that's handsome, you come with me, I'll treat you right. But you ugly ass person, I'm gonna throw this chicken bone on the ground. You eat that. They ain't treat
Hey,
them
I got
both
a
the
precept
same.
for you guys.
Come on, bring it up.
All right, this is the book of Deuteronomy 25 and 5. It says, if brethren dwell together and one of them die
If
and have
two,
no children,
go slow, go slow.
the wife,
So if two brothers dwell together, right? This is very important because this is talking about kin on kin. So in this particular situation, Israel and Israel. Go ahead.
and one of them die and have no child,
If one
the,
dies and has no child, go ahead.
the wife of the dead
Who?
shall not marry without unto a stranger,
Who? Who? The
right?
wife of who?
I have a question.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. The wife of
So,
who?
no, you hold on.
Well,
We
let
You
him
can't
came in
finish.
here
finish.
to
We
teach a class?
we can't finish dealing
Okay.
with the brother.
I mean, we was in the middle of the scripture.
I know, like we dealing with the brother. That's all. Like we don't want to get confused. So if the brother could continue reading the precept, that'd be fantastic.
Well,
It says,
wait. I guess he asked him, "Was y'all teaching a class or something?" I think
I'm.
that's what he was asking.
I mean, I guess we could call it that. We just run it up in the scriptures, and we trying to get to the bottom of what was brought up, which was that Israelites can't marry somebody who's not a virgin or who is a widow. In other words, and so
Well,
what we
we'll let y'all get finished reading the scripture, but in this room, there's a liberal way where people can interject and ask questions. Even women can interject and ask questions, but we'll allow y'all to. We don't want to interrupt the reading of the word, but we won't like if he reads, could he just read right straight through, and then you come back and try to say what he's saying without just because you're mingling the word and your interpretation of the word together. We just want to get a clear cut, what the words say, and then you come back and tell us your understanding of what that word says.
fair enough. Go ahead, Sars, from the
okay,
top.
it says, okay, so this is the book of Deuteronomy 25 and 5. It says, if brethren dwell together, and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her and take her to him to wife and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her.
So that means that if a man becomes a widower, I mean, if a woman becomes a widow and her husband dies, that the brother of that man is supposed to then lay with her and conceive with her and then be her husband in that place and raise up that seed in that house. And this is not something that we can isolate and say, oh, well, you're misreading that, because in Matthew 22 and 28, when the brothers is talking to who the world calls Christ, they have the same understanding. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be? Of the seven. So they're talking about someone who had been widowed seven times. That was the understanding pertaining to the law. So if you could
Yeah,
help us
I get that.
understand that.
Like I said, there were exceptions. It's not that you couldn't do it, but there were exceptions. We seen that with Jephthah in the book of Judges just yesterday. His mother was a harlot, and Israel's attitude was on display. They said, "Get the hell out of here. You ain't gonna have no inheritance with us." And that's what this is about. That's the bigger picture. It's about the inheritance. It's not whether you can have sex with a woman that's a widow or not. It wasn't the case. They had inheritance, and that meant land rights.
Hmm.
God wanted them to stay within the confines of their bloodline for the sake of inheritance from tribe to tribe. He didn't want them moving, bouncing around from tribe to tribe to tribe to tribe. You're gonna mess up the whole inheritance, which they did anyway, eventually. But the point was, there's an exact reason why he had these laws about marriage and widows with the priests and with corporate Israel.
Hmm.
I've never said one time you could not or you should not. No, but the prescription of the law was you don't marry a widow, because guess what? You marry that widow and she has a son. You have a son by her. No matter if you hate her or not. Guess what? He had to receive the inheritance. We saw that with Abraham and Hagar and Ishmael and Isaac. Who was going to get the inheritance?
The one who
Before
God said,
Isaac came along and had, okay, Ishmael. He would
Isaac.
have had to get the inheritance. You see? If there was no Isaac, Ishmael would have had to get the inheritance. There was a purpose for this. That's why I said before, there were some exceptions, true. But when we talk about inheritance, oh my God, you definitely have to look at all these cases by case. It's a case by case basis. Hence, exceptions. There's some exceptions. We
So,
see the prophet Hosea. Who does he marry? What does he go marry? A harlot? Back to Jephthah. His mother was a harlot.
right.
And clearly the children of Israel didn't want him to. And he's from out of the line of Manasseh. And I said Ephraim the other day, but out of the tribe of Manasseh, the half tribe of Manasseh. And the Israel said, "No, you get the hell on." And he fled from him
So,
until the Ammonites came in to sack him. You
so,
see,
so none of
because they
those
didn't want no part of
instances
that.
are dealing with Levites, and for that matter, Aaronites, right?
Well, I won't say for 100% certainty, but I do know that the Levites had to keep it holy.
Yeah, I'm just talking about
They
what's
definitely
documented.
had to keep it holy. For as what I've seen, now, I'm not gonna be 100% proof positive,
Yeah,
but it appears that the Levites definitely had to stay within the Levitical line.
absolutely. So when you
Yeah.
say that, again, we have the
Mhm.
parameters for that written. And so an exception would be if a brother from inside of that parameter got some kind of special treatment. But when we see Israel not being told that they can't deal with no widows, that's not an exception. That's just how the Most High is dealing with Aaron and his line, and how he's dealing with the rest of Israel. Like I'm still begging you, brother, to
That ain't
produce.
true either. That ain't true either.
Well, be that as it may,
And I can tell you,
I'm still
I can
waiting for
tell
you to
you.
produce the documentation
Let
requested,
me let me
the
let me say
scripture.
this right here in conclusion to this point. I think you need to get you some more scholarly subjects. I've got the McClinic and Strongs I can pass off to you, but I will tell you again, there's no strict code.
There's no strict
There
code.
are nope. That's why I keep saying exceptions.
So in Leviticus,
For
where's the
example,
exception for those Levites?
well, that's the whole thing.
That
The
is
New
the whole
Testament.
thing,
Now you
brother.
ask me. Now listen. You asked me how many books did I up, upheld. I
Right.
told you 66 books. And within those 66 books in the New Testament, God has made us a nation of kings and priests.
Hmm.
Can I go marry a widow?
Yeah, you can.
Yes, I can. That's right. As a Levite, I can do that.
No, as a Levite, you can't
So,
do that,
see there? So, again, there's an exception here you might not be aware of.
brother. That's
Everything
that's
ain't so
that's
cut
what
and
I'm
dry.
saying is that law is for Aaron. So that's what I'm saying. An exception would
There
be,
is no Aaronic priesthood anymore.
brother.
Didn't you get the memo?
The point is that Aaron being
Priesthood
able
is
to
being
marry a widow
changed.
is that would be an exception because Aaron's the one who was told that his seed can't do it. You would have to
That's
show.
Old Testament.
You would have to show. You would have to
That don't
show.
exist anymore.
So
That
you
doesn't
saying
exist anymore.
is that for good, brother?
That is a wrap.
Is that
The
for good?
priesthood was
Is
changed.
that for good?
It was changed. That's for
Forever.
good. It's over
Okay.
with
So
forever
so I
and
want to have
ever and
another
ever.
scripture brought out. Sergeant Akaz, can I have you pull Malachi chapter 3, my brother?
Khan, and I got First Ezra 9:17 as well. But
Come.
uh, what you need at Malachi?
Malachi chapter 3, and let's start at verse 1 because if we deal with eschatology, there's an eschatological narrative, and that means that we have pinpoints that we're going to hit along the way to the climax of the prophecy, right? So we're going to illustrate that very loosely, and I want you to break it down for me, brother Don. Malachi 3 and 1.
All right, this is the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts.
Keep going.
But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner fire and like fuller's soap." Verse 3. And he shall sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness.
Come. So they shall give a sacrifice in righteousness. I want to understand when this is going to be taking place or if it came to pass, Brother Don. And I'm asking this because and I don't want to do it facetiously because what this text demonstrates is that John the Baptist is going to come and he's going to make straight the way for the messenger of the covenant, who we would agree is who the world calls Jesus Christ. After those events, it says that the sacrifices of Levi are going to be perfect. It even says in verse 4 that the offering of Judah and Jerusalem will be pleasant, as in former years. So this isn't talking about some brand new thing under the sun. So if you could just help me to understand the meaning of this, brother, I will listen.
Okay, so uh, you're asking a lot. So let's see. The refiner's fire. What is the refiner's fire? Well, it's the same thing, it's the same type of fire as gold, except the same fire you use to purge the gold and silver to get the draw soap out of it so you can purify it. Get rid of the impurities. And what is the fire of God? Well, the word is a fire. So he that comes as the refiner with fire to purge the sons of Levi, that's Christ. Right there tells you this already happened. Once you find the refiner, once you understand the fire, then you understand this has to occur with Christ. Just right off the bat, right away. And why purge? What's the purging of Levi's about? Well, the sacrifices they brought yearly and daily that they offered could not make the priest perfect. Those sacrifices didn't make them perfect. Hebrews will explain this to you in fine details as pertaining to the conscience. It was remembrance of sin every year. So God sending his own son in the process of time to reform Israel. The reforming was about the offering, not just any offering, a perfect offering unto the Lord that was pleasing, so that the children of Israel could be purged from their sins and become perfect in their minds, so they can be in a sophroneo, a right mind, so they can have an answer of a good conscience towards God. That's in the book of Peter, where the like figure whereunto baptism, baptizo, doth not also sozo us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, not the water baptism, baptismos mikvah, not that, not the divers washings, but the answer of a good conscience. And the only way you can do that is in blood. Bapto, B-A-P-T-O. Christ does this. He does this on the cross. That verse, chapter in Malachi, with all due respect, has already been accomplished.
Okay. So they're doing sacrifices as in the days of old, as in the former years. In
No, no more offerings.
verse
No more
4
offerings.
says,
No more
then shall the
sacrifices.
offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord as in the days of old and as in the former
Yes.
years.
Yes. And what are those offerings?
It's talking about making perfect offerings. Just like verse
Well,
3
it wasn't
elaborates
animals
on,
then.
it's the
Couldn't have been
sacrifices.
animals.
So you saying there's not going to be sacrifices in the kingdom, and that's not an offering, even though
No, I'm
they're
not saying that either.
okay. So
I'm not
don't
saying
the
that.
sons of
I'm
Aaron need
saying
to do that?
I'm saying it's not two lambs a day. It's not young Yom Kippur. It's not those oblations and the sprinklings of a heifer and ashes and turtle doves and dove's dung and all these rituals that's been blotted out. There's only one true offering to God in blood, and that was the blood of Christ. Now, when it comes to all else, there is an offering that is pleasing to God that Judah and Israel can perform, but it won't be by the Levitical line and it won't be through the sons of Aaron. It'll be through Judah. The priesthood was changed. And what is the offerings and the sacrifices of God that he accepts? It ain't bulls and goats no more. He tells you that in Psalms. The
It's
blood of bulls and goats
it's
thou wouldest not.
it says that
Thou
those
wouldest
things
not. Thou
can't
hast had
clean
no
us.
pleasure.
It says those
Yeah,
things
because
can't clean
that's
us,
right.
but he
It
says
couldn't. God ain't had no pleasure in it.
I'm
You're
not. But
right.
we're not
That's
talking about
exactly what it
those.
says.
We're not talking
Right.
about
So
those.
that what is the offering that Judah and Israel can actually bring up?
So
You know what
walk
that is?
walk with me, brother. That's not my point.
All
I'm
right.
not saying we gotta make
But
sacrifices for
it's but
sins.
it's what you're asking me is what I'm trying to allude to.
That's not what I'm asking you.
Yeah, it is what you're asking me is what I'm alluding to.
So
There's
okay.
only one type of offering. There's only one offering that God accepts.
So
A
you're
contrite spirit and a
brother.
humble heart
You're
God will not despise.
this is contradictory in the text. You said there's one type of offering, and so the problem is that there's several types of offering, and the one that you went to that you said don't exist no more is the bulls and goats, that which we would both agree won't justify us no more. They won't atone for us. But there's sacrifices in the scriptures that are simply a sweet savor to the Most High, is there not?
Yeah, it's called prayer. Prayer.
Uh huh.
Prosukomai. That's one of them.
Okay,
And God
brother.
says his the
This is crazy.
offerings of the Lord. No, that's your Bible.
Nah,
Here,
man. You look. I
I'll show you.
look. You're talking about temple knowledge, bro. But there's other sacrifices that are a sweet savor unto the Most High. But I'm not
That's
gonna
called
do all that
prayer.
with you. You could just break down this one text for me. I will be done. I'll leave it alone because I don't really have time to do the debate. But I would like to set something up where we could do a nice formal and structured debate. I feel like this was a good build. I appreciate you having the patience to answer these questions. If my man could read Ezekiel 45, starting at verse 16, and then just Sergeant on down to verse 19, I would love your understanding on that.
Khan. This is the book of Ezekiel 45. What you want, verse 16?
Come
Khan. It says,
from 16
all
to
the
19.
people, Khan. It says, all the people of the land shall give this oblation for the prince in Israel. Verse 17. And it shall be the priest's part to give burnt offerings and meat offerings and drink offerings in the feast and in the new moons and in the Shabbats and in solemn and solemnities. Hold on, solemn. Hold on. To should I stutter? In all solemnities of the house of Israel, he shall prepare the sin offering and the meat offering and the burnt offering and the peace offering to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. Verse 18. Thus says the Lord God, in the first month, in the first day of the month, thou shalt take a young bullock without blemish and cleanse the sanctuary. Verse 19. The priest shall take of the blood of the sin offering and put it upon the post of the house and upon the four corners of the settle of the altar and upon the post of the gate of the inner court.
So what is that talking about, brother?
Um, that was verse 19.
So what's that talking about, my brother Don?
Okay, so what does that prove?
I'm asking you what it's talking about.
Well, he's gonna be back, but what that proves is that what the priests, aka the Levites, is still gonna be uh, still gonna be state offerings, drink offerings, just all types of different offerings allowed. You know, so so it's a
So
huge.
y'all actually think that God is gonna bring that back?
That's
There's no
what it
Bible
says.
for that. There's
That's
no
what it
Bible
says.
for that. There ain't no prophecy for that. Nowhere.
So what's that?
But
That's
you
why actually what's that talking about? Break down that text, brother.
ain't talking. Well, it says. I mean, I'm not gonna say what it's saying is wrong.
So
I'm saying that your idea of something future to come is wrong. You're
what?
not doing that now.
So what is it talking about?
If you're gonna do anything, see, if I took that verse the way y'all taking it, we should be doing that now.
It doesn't say
The
Okay,
now.
I'm gonna go
refiner
back
has
to
already came,
Brother,
right? The refiner's already came. We've established that, right? Y'all
Eze-
don't disagree with that, do you?
Ezekiel
The refiner
45,
has
brother.
came.
Ezekiel 45 is not talking about the refiner. It's talking about the segment that's in the latter verses 3 and 4 of Ezekiel 3. See, when I went
Yeah,
to
but you don't
Ezekiel,
break scriptures. You can't break scriptures though. You can't. The scriptures can't be broken. You
nobody's,
can't take one scripture and say that don't count, but this one do.
brother,
In the light of this
nobody,
subject, no, you can't do that.
nobody's breaking
If
it,
he's
brother.
gonna purge, listen. If he's gonna purge the Levites, and if I take your argument in consideration and factor it all in, what I should come up with is Jesus came, perfected the worshipers of it, the service, the ones that did the service of the priest office, and they should be bringing up acceptable sacrifices right now for the last 2,000 years.
Are the
What y'all are
Israelites,
doing,
are the
I don't
Israelites
know if
in the
you're
land
ignoring
now?
this.
Are the Israelites in the land, brother?
That's what they say.
That's what
The
they
ones
say.
I know in the land,
What do you
like
say?
Elder ICL and M70, which God rest the dead, he's dead, and several other brothers who have left, migrated from Chicago and several other places in the land now,
Do they have their
in
temple?
Demona and otherwise.
Do they have their
Nope,
temple?
nope.
And are they waiting for the rest of Israel to be saved?
But does that
Brother,
necessarily
are they
equate
waiting for the
to?
rest of Israel to be saved?
I don't know what they're waiting on, but I do know
You mean in the
that they.
Mona?
Yeah, I mean, Demona of them.
The brothers and sisters being kicked out of Demona right now are safe in
Yes,
Demona.
Benjamin Netanyahu been killing dark skinned folks out of there for the last
So
8 years.
so
So
basically
I mean,
you're able to see, just like I am, that Israel is not saved. So basically what I
I don't
was trying,
follow that paradigm there.
that's
That
all.
is a completely non sequitur to me, my understanding of
But it says when we
soteria.
save, we're gonna be brought out of the lands of our captivity from the east and the west, right? That's in the
No,
66
it
book.
doesn't. There's no verse like that
Okay.
nowhere.
Watch this.
You got to combine something to make that work. There's no verse like that nowhere.
Watch this.
Nowhere.
This is bad. So when it
And the
says,
whole of that statement, there's not that ain't in the Bible. That's an interpretation. There's no verse like that anywhere, and I know that.
so Isaiah 43:5, fear not, for I am with thee, and I will bring thy seed from the east and gather thee from the west. That's not in there?
Yeah, that's in there. But where does it say anything about saving them
What,
in
okay.
the land?
So if we go to Deuteronomy 30, if we go to Deuteronomy 30, we understand that a part of salvation is called the salvation clause. That's what I call it. Deuteronomy 30 tells you that when we're scattered due to punishment after seeing the blessings and the curses, if we repent, we will be gathered out of all nations, whether we're gathered. So this is a part of salvation that's built into our covenant with the Most High, brother. But I see that this might not be the time or the temperament to have the discussion. You said it's not there, brother. I just firmly showed you. I'll read the rest of the text. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Even every one that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory, and I have formed him. Yea, I have made him. This is telling us that when we are given that salvation, look, even verse 3, for I am Yahweh thy God, the Holy One of Israel, thy Savior. Brother, so he's given the connotation that this is the one who talked to you about salvation before. But, we could get into it. Like I said, I would love to set up a formal debate where it's structured. We can get passionate as we need to, but these points need to be held to more scrutiny because I do feel like you kind of, I don't want to say played with, but I kind of feel like you may not have heard exactly the points that I wanted you to deal with. And so they were mishandled a little bit, in my opinion. But I feel like you a cool brother. We could straighten that out in the latter days, Lord willing, right?
Man, we can discuss it anytime you want to. I mean, it's an open floor right now. We here. I mean, we ain't going nowhere. But
Oh, perfect.
I don't hold to. I will tell you this. I don't hold to salvation by geographical location. That was a phrase I coined about 8, 9 years ago when talking with some of the brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. You know, I don't hold to that because there is no Bible for that. That is a completely esoteric interpretation of many passages of scripture you can go to, but none of them say the following: you only say when you actually in the land. There's no Bible for that nowhere. Nowhere.
Nobody said you only save when you actually in the land, because we could deal with the fact that we came out of Babylon by way of Persians and Medes, and then we could deal with the fact that we had to go back into the land under their captivity, and they was taxing us. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that salvation
Mhm.
comes with us being put in our land. Isaiah 14 tells us that we be brought
Well,
out of the land.
if you're phrasing it that way, okay, I could go with it without a whole lot of controversy. But I will tell you that God can save you from the utmost. You don't have to be in the land to be saved. So I don't even make that a point of conversation because it's moot. At best, it's moot. For example, God saved Israel out of Egypt. They weren't in the land, they were in Egypt. So why would I, right off the bat,
Brother, you say
why would I think
get them
that you
out the
gotta be in
land.
Israel? Why would salvation come along with being in Israel when I can plainly see that salvation came from wherever they were? So I'm not to that persuasion, and I got a plethora of verses to deal with that. But as far as these sacrifices go, I don't know if you want to really debate me on that subject, but suit yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can just tell you, I don't. I'm gonna just tell you now. My statement of faith is, I don't believe sacrifices and offerings. I don't believe that's coming back at all. I've heard that. I know brothers that say that they believe that, but I don't. I don't see the evidence. I see more evidence pointing to the idea that God ain't concerned with that no more. Like you said, no temple. 2000 over 2000 years, no temple. There's a reason for that. And then somewhere in the future, from now, he gonna reinstitute this again after the priest had been changed, after the refiner and came. I mean, do you know what you actually have to do to make that argument even kind of work a little bit, you've got to erase history for that to work. Chiefly the history of Israel and all God has said in the law and the prophets. I don't know if you can do that. But if you want to challenge me on this debate, I'm going to tell you now, you better make sure you have done your homework properly. I will warn you.
All right, sounds good.
I am pro Horizon one. I'm just telling you. You
Sounds good. And
better know what you're doing. That's all.
what's Jeremiah 30 and 18 talking about when it says, "Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents." What's that talking about?
It's talking about Israel being this nigga is gonna stop right. So Tony. Uh well, Israel goes
it's
off into
already.
captivity in 722 BCE. Yeah, San Antonio. Talk about quit running. Uh but no, it's always funny. It don't matter what time of day or night. That's always our little thing. Quit running
Yeah,
because I don't want to
serious.
answer the
It's
phone.
already. It's already Sabbath over there, brother Don.
Yeah, it actually
Yeah.
is. It actually
Shabbat
is.
shalom to the
Shabbat
room.
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yep. So, but yeah, Israel goes into the captivity in 722 BCE by the Assyrians. They come in, sack northern Israel, boom, they out of there, and had been gone and dispersed for over 700-800 years. 20 over 2,600 years, Israel had been scattered. Just that long.
Mhm.
And so that is the facts on the ground. Now, what do we do with that? How do we, deal with that? Well, there's only one way I know to deal with it. Just gotta accept the facts, keep it moving.
What does it mean? I will bring again the
Yeah.
captivity, brother. Make it plain.
Now that deals with the book of Acts, chapter 2. But if it's not just bring again the captivity, it's not just bring again. It's something attached to that you need to look at. But that's the case of Israel. Judah,
No, what is it?
586 BC,
No, what I'm saying,
they're
what does
part of the
the bringing
captivity too.
again mean, brother? Before you go off into the rest, I'm saying, what does it mean to bring them again? What does it mean to bring the captivity?
It means to bring them back away from where they were. And
You
we
just
see
you
that
just said we
with
don't see that in the text though earlier. And despite the
no,
fact that you may
I
say
didn't
this
say
is a
that.
prophecy that
I
came
never
with
said
that,
that.
brother, you did
I
say
never
that,
said that. Not about this.
brother.
That's another subject. That
You
was about
said in
sacrifices.
general, brother, when I asked you about salvation coming back into the land and it being a part of it, before I went into any text, you said you don't find that nowhere.
Yeah, concerning these sacrifices and salvation, no.
And they wasn't about the
But this part
sacrifices
is
that you
about
said that, brother.
captivity. So, but that's a different subject. You can't. I'm not going to conflate the two.
Uh,
These are different questions about different subjects. I mean, we got to keep that separate, don't you think?
this is bad.
Is
When you
Israel?
addressed me earlier, brother, it was about them being
Mhm.
gathered. I said that's a part of salvation, and you said I couldn't show you that, and then I showed you where we was going to be gathered from the east and the west. It was
Yeah,
right.
and I still maintain that when it comes to salvation, I still maintain that. I'm not deviating from that argument at all. Not once. I'm not deviating from that period. I meant just what I said.
I guess I'm tripping.
But as
It
far
sounded
as
like you. It sounded
capt,
like you said that that wasn't a part of salvation. That's my point.
yeah,
But
them
maybe I
being in the
misunderstood.
land, yeah, I think you're missing something here. I'm saying salvation ain't contingent upon you being in the land. But I probably won't argue and make a big old stink about if you say salvation comes along with them in the land, because the them is Judah. Salvation is of the Jews, and that was in the land. So I'm not gonna argue with you about that. I won't make no
Brother
stink
Biz, you
about it.
wanted to speak?
Yeah, yeah, but
You're
I ain't gonna make
unmuted.
no. Yeah, yeah. If you want to speak, y'all can speak. Just speak up.
Okay.
But no, I'm not gonna dispute that point with you because I agree with that. But as far as anything else, like I said, I don't see no. I don't see you have to be in the land to be saved. No, I don't believe. I don't even agree with that. Period.
I have a precept, right? So this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, right? Verses 5 to 8. It says,
I don't know. Yeah, but
"Behold, the days come,
Israelites
said the
don't
Lord,
have
that
to
I will raise
marry
unto
virgins
David a
and
righteous
marry
branch
widows.
And a king shall reign and prosper and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. Verse 6. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell in safety. And this is his name whereby he be called, the Lord our righteousness. Verse 7. Therefore, behold, the days come, said the Lord, that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their land. Come on. It's right there. They shall dwell in safety in their own land.
Okay, so what does that prove?
It just proved that the Israelites, just like my general, said that they should become from the east and west, right? So he's gonna gather the Israelites out of the land of north and from all countries, right? And they shall dwell in safety in their own land. That's what that context just said.
Okay, so what does that prove, though? I mean, what does that actually prove?
That
I don't get
just
it.
proves that what you said was not biblical, King.
What?
On this earth once. No question who the owner of this turf was. Turf wars against Cain and tell you how we crushed them. But we forsook the holy covenant like we ain't one.